Hello and welcome back to the Ryan Weiss Show. I'm your host, Ryan Weiss. Thanks for joining me today. Today I'm continuing a series that I'm doing this year called Lessons for My Kids, where I present life lessons that I think are critical for my kids to learn, and you might also find some value from the series. Today I'm excited to present kind of a spicy topic, right? This is going to get personal. How to choose a good spouse. This is a deeply personal topic, a pretty sensitive topic. I might get into some parts of my worldview here that you may not share. So I guess my ask while you're listening to this video is if you could please try to keep an open mind. I'll present the best case for my beliefs. Again, they might conflict with yours, but just hear me out, and see if any of this makes sense to you and see if it resonates with you. This is a topic that I love to discuss as well. So if you watch this video and it triggers a question within you, or something that you want to go a little bit deeper on, or something maybe that you think I got wrong, please feel free to reach out to me if you've got my contact info. If you don't, just feel free to comment below on what you're thinking, and I'd love to discuss this with you and make this video a discussion. So, how to choose a good spouse. Okay, I think the first thing you need to start with is dating and relationships. And romantic relationships are a special kind of relationship, right? They're not like a friendship or a business partnership or an acquaintance. They're a very special kind of relationship. Modern dating is repulsive to me for a lot of different reasons. One of the things that I think modern dating gets wrong is its approach to sex and intimacy. My advice to you is, when you're trying to choose a spouse and when you're dating, my advice to you is to delay sex and sexual activities for as long as you can. And my advice and my reason for doing this is that when you're trying to make a selection on who to make your spouse, you want to try to make as clear-headed and as logical a decision as you can possibly make. When you engage in sexual activities with someone, your brain experiences a powerful hormonal interaction, right? When you do sexual activities, your brain dumps oxytocin and a lot of other, and serotonin and a lot of other loving and bonding chemicals. And so your brain will actually chemically bond you to the person that you're engaged in sexual activities with, in a way that will 100% cloud your judgment and 100% prevent you from making an objective decision about this person. So the reason that it's important to delay and defer sexual activities is so that you can make a more rational decision about if you want to keep dating this person and if you want to marry this person. What I think modern dating does, and what modern people do, is they do not defer or delay sexual activities, and they have sex pretty early on in the relationship. And the problem with that is, when you're early in a relationship, you don't necessarily know everything about the person that you're dating, and you don't know you don't necessarily know all of their personal beliefs. You don't necessarily know everything about their personality. You don't know about their habits. You don't know how they react in certain situations. And you can very quickly find yourself chemically bonded to someone who's actually not a good fit for you. And maybe they have some beliefs or some habits that are a deal breaker to you. But now you find yourself trapped, right? Because you've bonded yourself to this person. You feel so much love and affection to this person because you've done sexual activities with them. And yet you want to exit the relationship because they have something about them that's a deal breaker. And that's where you can find real heartbreak, right? Where you're really bonded to a person, but the relationship has to end because of some deal breaker. Or you find yourself in the opposite camp, where you can't let the relationship go because you're bonded to this person in this chemical way, a way that you can't necessarily control and you can't think your way out of, and so you're stuck. And a lot of people find themselves stuck in relationships like these for a long time. This is, I think, how abusive relationships form, right? You're chemically bonded to someone, you're dependent on someone, and yet they're abusing you, right? And you can't find a way out of that relationship. And that's a really challenging position to be in. I have a lot of sympathy for people who are in abusive relationships. But my strong recommendation to you is delay and defer sexual activities, right? So that you don't find yourself chemically bonded to someone who you should not be in a relationship with. Okay, next on choosing a spouse, right? We defer sex. Next is maybe the obvious part, which is physical attraction. You should find yourself physically attracted to the person that you're considering marrying and considering dating. I have found myself in situations where I'm really attracted to someone due to their personality or their energy or their beliefs, but I'm not physically attracted to them. That's a tough situation to be in, because I felt myself wanting to be in a relationship with people like that. But I think that physical attraction is a key component of a relationship. And the thing that's nice about physical attraction is there is like 60% of it is in your control, right? Or maybe even more, maybe even 70%. If you exercise, eat well, have good hygiene, and dress well, you're already like 70% of the way there to being attractive. And then there is that genetic component that you can't control, right? How tall you are, the quality of your skin, the symmetry of your features. So I try not to hold that against people. But really being attractive is 70% decisions that you make, which is great because you can have that be in your control. Okay, so physical attraction is important. It's not the end all be all, it's important. Next, you have how you filter a person. So, and actually, sorry, let's go back. How you start the relationship, I think, is important. So, something that you should consider when considering dating someone and marrying someone is how the relationship started. And I encourage you to be courageous with the way that you start relationships. If you are interested in dating someone or think that they might be a match for you, I encourage you to express that, and I encourage you to pursue that. And the way that I met my wife, I saw her at the gym. I thought she was beautiful. I walked up to her. I told her that I thought that she was beautiful, and I asked if she would go on a date with me. I didn't know anything about her. I don't know how often that works out. It probably doesn't work out very often. I think the more typical route is that you'll be friends or in a friend group or know of them, or maybe be in a class together, and you develop a non-romantic relationship like that. Then a romantic spark or a romantic interest occurs, and then you pursue it from there. But I encourage you to be courageous when you're feeling those feelings within yourself. Don't hide them, right? Because a lot of people, I think, regret not expressing romantic feelings to someone, and not getting a chance to see if a relationship with a certain person would work because they're afraid of rejection. And fear of rejection is a whole nother topic that I would love to maybe make a video on. Rejection's a part of life. It's a huge part of life. It's a very important part of life. You should seek rejection as often as you can tolerate it. So consider how you're starting the relationship. Then consider how you filter that person, right? So start a relationship with someone and have them meet your friends and have them meet your family, and ask your friends and family, hey, what do you think of this person, right? Because you're creating your own judgment of this person, but then all your friends and family are also creating their own judgment of this person. And sometimes they can identify your blind spot. And if you've deferred sex and you aren't chemically bonded to this person, you can listen to the suggestions that they have for you and maybe make a better and more rational decision. Try to put that person that you're considering as a spouse in different situations. So maybe you go on a trip with them. Maybe you go out to dinner. Maybe you try an escape room. Like, try different situations and see, are they the type of person that is more dominant or more submissive? Are they creative or are they not creative? Are they sort of logical or more emotional? All these are different axioms and different parts of a personality that you may or may not want within a potential spouse. A couple of different thoughts. Consider basic compatibility, right? Do they share your religious views? Do they share your cultural views and your culture? Do they share your same lifestyle desires, right? So if you want to have a family and have a stay-at-home wife take care of the kids, or a stay-at-home husband take care of the kids, does your spouse, or does your potential spouse, share that vision? I think a lot of pain occurs in marriage when people start with different visions, don't acknowledge those differences, and then sort of butt heads when they're each trying to live out their own different vision. So you should I think preferably marry someone that has the same lifestyle vision and lifestyle desires as you. But if you don't, you should at least acknowledge those differences and mentally prepare for, for conflict to occur when you both try to live out those visions, and maybe even try to pre-negotiate, okay, how can we have what you want while also respecting and having what I want. And then I think another component of this that's worth mentioning is considered the genetic aspect. If you select a spouse that has a chronic disease, are you prepared to watch your children and your descendants have this chronic disease if it is, in fact, heritable? You should consider, if your spouse is tall or short, do you want your kids to be tall or short? Again, these are kind of like maybe more shallow things that you should consider early on in dating. Don't date someone for 6 months and then say, hey, you're short, I want to break up with you. Like, make this decision quickly. That's another thing, you should break up quickly, right? If it's not a good fit, make that decision early on. Don't cohabitate. That's another point I want to bring up. There's an excellent book you should consider reading. It's called The Defining Decade. It's about the decisions you make in your 20s and how they affect the rest of your life. And a big part of romantic relationships that this author discusses is this concept of sliding, not deciding. So sometimes people will structure their lives in a way to avoid major decisions, and spousal selection is a big part of that. So when people are dating, they will start to cohabitate. And when you cohabitate, you start to depend on each other. Then if you decide the relationship isn't a good fit, you have this huge disincentive to break up, which is, if we break up, I have to go find another place to live. And that's a huge pain in the butt. The author talks about in the book how there's this one woman who realizes she's in a relationship she doesn't want to be in, but she doesn't break up because they spend so much time buying this couch that they love. And she just doesn't want to spend all this time buying another couch. So be careful to slide and not decide. Be careful to commit to someone that you're not ready to make a full commitment to. Don't cohabitate. Try to defer sexual activities. Use your support group as a filtering system. Consider basic compatibility. Consider physical attraction. And ultimately, one final thing that I'll say is be careful of the romanticized idea of love. Marriage and family should be practical decisions. Now, you should still feel love and you should still sometimes feel butterflies, but really you're not going to feel butterflies for the rest of your life. You're going to almost be in like a very practical business partnership at some points with your spouse, where you have to make financial decisions, you have to make lifestyle decisions. And so, you want someone who you feel like you can make good decisions with. And you want to not base your life off of, sort of emotional flutters and irrational emotional decisions and feelings. So those are my sort of scattered thoughts on spousal selection. I hope that was helpful. If I'm alive, I would love to discuss this with you, since choosing a spouse is really like the number one life decision you can make. I mean, I think it affects you more than maybe anything else you can decide to do. I probably didn't give it justice here in this 14-minute video. I could probably talk about this for an hour and go deeper on every one of those things that I just discussed, but I'll cut it here. These are my basic thoughts. I hope you seriously consider this advice, and I hope that this was helpful to you. So thank you for watching this video. Ryan Weiss signing out.